Hello and welcome to my camera settings tutorial video where I explain the three types of camera settings for any old DSLR camera. And the three main settings are ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. These three camera settings affect what is known as the exposure of a picture. Exposure just means how dark or bright the picture looks when you take it, when the picture is captured. Now, the first camera setting I'm going to talk about is the ISO. ISO is the sensitivity of your camera when taking a picture. So, meaning ISO is the sensitivity the camera is to light. Now, when you raise the ISO, it raises your exposure, but there's going to be a lot of little rainbow pixels around, and it's going to look kind of grainy, as it's called. And then when you lower your ISO, it's going to lower your exposure, but it's going to be a lot clearer, so it's not going to be as much grain. Now, how this affects it? Now, when you take a picture in a dark place with a high ISO, it's going to brighten it up, but there's going to be a lot of graininess. Like this one picture I took of a pencil behind the green screen. I had a really high ISO, around 6400, and it looks bright, but it's just really grainy. So you should only use a really high ISO if it's dark. Now, the f-stop or the aperture of a camera is the opening or closing of the little shutters inside the lens that let in more or less light. Now, this setting affects the bokeh or the blurriness of the picture. Now, it's not completely blurry, it's only part of it. Usually it's in the background of what you're focusing on, or if you want you can make it in the foreground. Like, for example, I took a couple pictures of pencils. This one is one with background bokeh, and now this one is one with foreground bokeh. Now, with the high f-stop, your exposure is going to lower since you need more information. So since the highest f-stop is clear, it's going to need more information, so it's going to be a lot lower. And now, in the lowest f-stop is going to be higher. It's going to raise your exposure since it doesn't need that much information, since some of the picture is going to be blurry. Now, I feel like more bokeh is useful since it makes whatever you're focusing on isolated, so it really catches the person's attention when they're looking at the picture. Now, the last camera setting I like to talk about is the shutter speed, or how fast the little shutter inside the camera opens and closes. Now, this kind of affects how blurry a picture is, like the motion blur. So let's say I have a spinning top. Now, this first one has a low shutter speed. As you can see, you can't see any details, it's just the top spinning. But then I raised up the shutter speed up to 4000, and now you can really see the fine details of the top even while it's spinning really fast. Now, I think it's the most important because this one just really affects how much detail is in your picture depending on how much motion there is. Now, the lower your shutter speed is, the higher your exposure is, because the lower it is, since there's so much blur, it doesn't need to capture so much information to just have a picture. But the higher your shutter speed is, the more information it needs, so it's going to be a lower exposure, and it's going to be darker. Yeah, that was it.